everyone, how are you guys doing today? Today I'm going to share the second episode of the dating horror stories. Today I'm going to share not one, not two, but three of these stories. Not every one of my experience was as kind of like creepy like the first one that I shared. If you haven't seen that video, it will be somewhere here and in the end screen as well, I think. But yeah, not all the guys were creeps. Some of them were just kind of plain weird. It's going to be a story of a super cute preacher, a super miser, and a super old baby who wanted to buy me a car on the first day. Alright, so as I told you guys earlier, I met all three of these guys through these Indian dating portals. If you don't know what they are, then they are covered in the first video, in the first half of that video. So go ahead, check it out. But the good thing about these three people were that they were local. I was still doing my PhD at the time. So it was good in a sense that we could still get married and, I could continue doing my PhD. So I guess I was kind of more willing to do compromises at that stage if the guy was local, which is very, very wrong in hindsight. but you do the best you can at the time, right? So that is what I was doing. And I was like, okay, if someone is local, I'm willing to work with it. So the first guy was from a neighboring state of Massachusetts. If I'm not, he was from Connecticut, and we decided to meet at a Panera Bread somewhere near the border of Massachusetts and Connecticut. I personally used to love Panera Bread at the time. I think the Panera Breads though in Massachusetts were way better than what I have seen in California. I don't know if that's really the case or it's just that the overall quality of Panera Breads has declined over the years. I don't know what the situation is, but I used to love Panera Bread, so I was kind of glad that he chose that because I used to like, and I still like kind of the ambiance that most Panera Breads used to have, and the food was good. So we met up. He came in this like bright orange Mazda, which I thought did say something about him. Most Indians that I know still own cars from three makes, Toyota, Honda, and Nissan, us included. Most of us do prefer that those cars are more reliable and they last a long time. So I was kind of like, oh, he drives a Mazda. Okay. And he drives a bright orange Mazda in that. So we go inside, we sit down, say our hi, hellos, just introduce ourselves, and then he suggests that we just go and get something to eat and drink. There were two counters, and he goes and stands behind me. He's actually ahead of me, but then goes and stands behind me. So I think that's okay, whatever. I go ahead and order, and then I look at him and I ask him like, hey, do you want to order anything? And he's like, no, you go ahead, I'll order here. So first of all, I don't think Panera Bread is very expensive. If I go with a friend, I am going to offer to pay for them. The friend can decline afterwards, but I thought it was so bizarre that he didn't even offer to pay for a date, which was not even that expensive date. I was a student at the time, but I would have still paid. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. I think you should pay. And he was working full time. And I am a very kind of independent woman. And usually I wouldn't have minded that if he would have just offered. I would have still said no. But the fact that he didn't even offer kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Anyways, we order, go back to our tables. And he tells me that he wants to buy a Subway franchise eventually and wants his wife to be a housewife and care for the kids. So in my head, those two things just didn't work because first of all, you are meeting a person who's doing her PhD. So, I had made it very clear in my profile that I plan to work in future. So I don't know why he was meeting with me. Second of all, if you are planning to have your wife as a housewife, that means you are going to pretty much have to pay for every single thing. And you wouldn't even pay for the first date. So that was that. I'm like, okay, if you want to have a housewife, then how are you going to not pay for her? The date number 2 was this 36-year-old guy. Again, he was local. I think he was from somewhere in Massachusetts itself. And we met in the parking lot of a Chinese restaurant. I used to really, really like that restaurant. I had already arrived because it was very close to my place. I had parked and I was waiting near my car. He drives in. He was driving a BMW. He told me later on. That's why I knew it was a BMW. But anyway, he comes, he waves at me and then goes and parks at the farthest corner of the parking lot. And the restaurant door was like right there where I had parked. There were parking spots, but he goes and parks like really, really far. And I was kind of confused. So anyway, he parks there and he walks back to me and says, "Hi." I'm like, "Hi." I'm like, "Why did you go so far?" He's like, "No, it's a new BMW. I don't want it to get scratched." There was literally like 5 cars in the parking lot at the time. But he's like, "I don't want it to get damaged." So I had parked like really far. Later on, when I told my husband, he did agree though. He's like, "Oh yeah, I would do that." Anyway, I think it's silly, especially when you're meeting someone for the first time. But then he looks at my car. I used to drive this really tiny 1992 Nissan Sentra. It was black, which made it look tinier. That car drove fantastically, had no issues. It actually had much lower miles than its age, and it was very well maintained. So anyway, he's like, "Oh, that's what you drive? We need to buy you a new car. We just met." No, thank you. I said to him, like, I am a student. Once I graduate, I do plan on getting a new car, but right now I'm okay with it. It's my car. I have purchased it myself. I was kind of proud of it because, I had used my own money. I hadn't asked anybody for any money to buy that car. But anyway, so we go inside. Now, this is something like unrelated to him, but that happened on that date. Like, we walk in, and who do I see? He's like one of the youngest professors who was actually a part of my defense committee. Like, I was supposed to defend my thesis in front of him. He was sitting there with a date, and I don't think it was even like it wasn't like a steady girlfriend. It was just like a date because he didn't really introduce me to her. Like, I said hi. The professor was really awkward. I didn't know how to introduce this guy. I barely knew his name. I'm like, "Okay, hi." And I just told this guy that this is my professor, and we went and sat down. Like, and we were given a table. Like, this was them, this was us. So it was kind of awkward. Okay. Anyways, they were about to leave, so it was good that way. But anyway, we go sit down. The waiter brings the menus. We are looking at the menu, and this guy like leans really close to me. And of course, given the first experience, remember that guy? I was a little bit taken aback. I'm like, okay, what is he gonna say? So anyway, he leans really close and asks me, "Do you eat non-veg food?" I come from a non-veg eating family, so that question was very bizarre to me. Okay, honestly. And even those who don't eat non-veg food have never asked me that question that way. But I was like, "Yeah, I do." I mean, it's a part of my family. Like, we cook non-veg food at home, so it's normal for us. So in my head, I was like, maybe he doesn't. But then he continues to say, "I do too." He was 36 years old, okay? He was not a kid. I mean, maybe his family did not accept him eating non vegetarian food, but for him to treat it that way outside of the house situation, I was like, "How long have you been staying in the States?" Like, anyways, we go ahead, and the waiter comes back in and says, like, "Do you guys want anything to drink?" And this guy leans in again, like, "Do you drink?" "Yeah, I do." "I do too." Again, he was 36. For me, I was like, is this all wrong in his head that he's doing something very wrong by eating chicken and drinking a glass of wine, and he's doing it to impress me? I mean, my expectations were higher than that. Anyway, throughout the rest of the evening, he brought up my car at least twice, saying that he needs to buy me a new car. And I tried to defend it again. I'm like, "No, thank you. I would rather keep my own car. And, once I graduate, once I get a job, I was planning to get a new car." Anyway, the date ended. We head out, we walk up to my car. And guess what he says again? He's like, "We really need to buy you a new car." "No, thank you. I don't want anybody to buy me a new car. I'm perfectly capable of buying my own new car," which I did right after I defended my thesis. Needless to say, I did not get back to him because I was like, no, if you're defying your parents by eating non-veg and drinking, which is very normal to me, I guess your parents might not like me, and that was not a situation I wanted. And secondly, if you think you need to buy me a car, you need to kind of dial it down. Now, the guy number three lived somewhere in South Boston. Again, a huge plus for him in my head. He was a Protestant Christian. I am a Hindu, but I never had anything against that. I was perfectly open to inter-religion relationship. I didn't see a problem with that. I believe that there's only one God, no matter what religion you are, and He comes to you in a form that you would understand, because He is wise enough to come to me and speak to me, say in Marathi or Hindi or whatever language I understand, and then go to a place, say in Europe, and speak in their local language and look like what the locals look like. That's how I think whatever image of God came to be. So in India we might put him as an Indian looking person, whereas in Middle East or wherever, you might come up with a god or a disciple that looks like them. So that was my thought process, honestly, and that still is. So we started talking. He was very charming, very, very cute, and he was local. Okay, he had a really nice apartment which was very, very clean. I think we went on a couple of dates, but unfortunately on both the dates all we discussed was religion, and not just religion. I'm open to discussions about religion, but we kind of more discussed how he believed that I could be going to hell. Because in his belief, if I wasn't a Christian and didn't stop believing in anything else, then I was going to go to hell. And I kept on trying to reason with him that what if I was behaving the best way a human is supposed to behave? I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not stealing. I'm not harming anybody. And he was like very clear that he's like, I it's not my place to decide whether you are going to hell or not, but you might be. Like, why would I go to hell? I haven't done anything wrong. Why would I go to hell? And I truly believe that we are kind of in a yuga where whatever actions we do, we get the, reward or the punishment for it right here. You're going to get it right here before you even die. And then later on, God can decide whether that punishment was enough or not, and will send you to heaven or hell. So I do believe that if you behave well, if you are a nice person, there's no reason for you to go to hell. I feel like actually by changing someone's religion, they are going against God's will. That's what I believe in, because God wants to be what you are, and He's only one. So if you're changing religion, you're actually believing that there are multiple gods. So it kind of goes against God in my head. Okay, so anyway, those were the three kind of experiences I had, and my husband did ask me like why I was sharing these stories, and I have two reasons. First of all, to warn those people about the bad experiences I had, because I was very naive when I was doing this whole dating business. Because usually when you are from a nice family and used to only meeting nice people, you end up meeting nice people. Because honestly, he used to ask me after every single date, like, how are you meeting these guys? Because, can you imagine any of our friends doing this? And I would be like, no. But the videos are one to tell you guys that those guys exist. And the second reason is kind of like to give you guys hope for those who have had bad experiences, is that to keep on going and eventually you will meet your person. Because I did, one of my friends did. She actually met her husband through this system, through one of those websites. Yeah, they are happily married for like 15 years now. Her son is almost 13. That guy is like super romantic, did the whole like one knee proposal and all of that. So, if you're having bad experiences, don't give up, keep going. Eventually, those things will pass and you'll have nice stories to tell when you're done. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't checked out the first video, do check it out. Thank you again for joining me. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. All right.